Hey everybody, Scott Barkus with AgriVision equipment here in the sprayer department. I'm going to talk to you today about the procedure to winterize a sprayer. The machine we have today is a 100-foot conventional machine. I just want to talk about first some of the things we got to do to get ready to winterize. One of the first things that we got to do is we got to make sure that we drain our main tank by opening up this valve. This is an automatic solution system machine. You can tell because it doesn't have all the yellow handled valves out here. So on an automatic solution system machine, we have an actual sump valve that's an electric valve that we have to push this button to open. So once we get our sump valve, manual valve open here, we need to hit this button and it'll open the valve underneath the machine to make sure we got our solution tank drained out good. Also, we'll want to look up at our rinse tank on the sight gauge up on the rinse tank and see if it's got any leftover water in it, and then we can open up our rinse tank drain valve right here. Once we get those two drained out, we want to go ahead and look at our all of our solution system valves. We want to make sure our high flow valve is in the open position. That way we're getting our RV antifreeze through our second flow meter if your machine is equipped with the second flow meter. We'll want to look in our eductor tank and make sure it's not full of water. And we'll want to, another good thing before we start our winterize is to pull our strainers off our machine and clean them out good, get all the chemical cleaned out of them. We got our main pressure strainer up here along the side of the frame, and then we got 3 in the back that I can show you here in a minute. Another thing about this rinse tank is it does not drain completely with this valve down here on the side because that hose is a little bit up from the bottom of the tank. So what we'll want to do is we'll want to start the machine, even if you think you got it drained out here, is we'll want to start the machine and hit our rinse button and start our solution system rinse so it sucks what's left in that tank out. With this automatic solution system, it'll kick off if the pump's running dry. But just let that run for a little bit and then you can cancel it to make sure that tank's completely dry. Now we're going to go back to the back of the boom and I'll show you those strainers back there that'll be a good idea to clean, and then we'll walk down to the end of the boom. So while we're getting ready to make sure our machine's ready to winterize, I wanted to point out a few things on the back that we want to look at. First, I want to show you if your machine is equipped with a boom air purge, you'll have this fitting right here, and I'll show you that procedure on how to blow the boom out later. But these are the 3 other strainers I talked about earlier that it's a good idea to go ahead and get them cleaned out and put back in before we start the winterization process. And then another thing we want to look at is to make sure that all the nozzle bodies are in the pointed down position. Once in a while your machine, you may have a couple of them shut off in between nozzles when you were spraying at different spacings. So we want to make sure that we have, if you don't have any tips on the machine, it's going to waste a lot of product. So it's better off to do like a medium-sized tip. Make sure there's a tip in the down position all the way across from one side of the boom to the other. Now we'll walk down, I'll show you something on the end of the boom down here. So while we're down here looking at our nozzles and making sure everything's turned just right, there's one there that's not quite turned straight down. We also want to notice and see if there's any fence row nozzles on this machine. A lot of times there's one on each side. There might only be one on the right side, but we want to know if we got fence rows. That way when we're in the cab later we can make sure we are getting product through our fence row nozzles. Here's the fence row nozzle on the end of the boom. And then back here is the actual actuator. If we don't run that, it'll trap water in here and cause some parts to get damaged from freezing up. The thing we want to make sure we drain out while we're getting ready to do our winterization is our hand rinse tank. It's a little tank that fills up here at the top, and then it's got a drain hose here for rinsing your hands. But if we forget to drain that out, then that'll freeze up on us. So we want to make sure we drain all the water out of that also. Now we're up here to the front of the machine. This machine is equipped with a front fill, so we want to make sure we drain this out good too, just by opening this valve to drain anything that might be left in there. After we get the antifreeze over to the main tank, we'll come back up here and we'll open that up and let a little bit of antifreeze run out, and then we'll blow it back up in the tank later. Alright, so we're up in the machine here. We got the key on. I just wanted to show you something quick on, you know, down before when we were outside I opened up that high flow valve. I want to show you where to go in and change the flow rate mode. So a lot of times I'll just hit this nozzle button and then hit the high flow, and you'll see your 3 different flow rates. So I changed it from standard flow to high flow, so I've got that selected here. That way it'll read that flow meter. Another thing I wanted to show you was to make sure that we got adequate minimum spray pressure and spray off pressure. 20 and 40 will be fine for our winterization, and then we're set on manual spray pressure here. One more thing is to set up a page where we have all of our sections. I have a page right here to where I can spray one section at a time, starting on one end of the boom. That's everything we need to set up in the display. Now we'll go back down and talk about putting the antifreeze in and running the procedure. Alright, so now we're back down here on the side of the machine. We've already got our RV antifreeze in the rinse tank. We like here at AgriVision Equipment, we like to use RV antifreeze because it works good. And we got it already in the tank, and I'm going to show you how you can do the procedure down here, and then I'll hop up in the cab and show you how to do it. So with our automatic solution system keypad, we have a rinse button right here. We can hit our rinse button, and then we get some options here on our side screen. We can the options that we can choose are boom rinse, complete solution system, tank rinse only, or add water from the rinse tank to the main tank. But since we're doing a winterize, we're gonna push our solution system rinse, our complete system rinse. And what that's gonna do is gonna move over to a series of events that are gonna happen during the automatic solution system rinse. It's gonna run the solution pump, and then it'll flip over to the adductor to where you could run the adductor. It's really quick on this step, so if you miss it, it's not that big a deal. We can catch it again later. But then it's going to run the agitation, and then it's going to allow you to spray it out the boom. But that's how we would do it if we were going to do it down here on the side. But I also want to show you how you can do it right from the cab. So I'm going to hit this cancel button right here, and I'll cancel it. Alright, so we're up in the cab here. I'm going to show you how to do the procedure to get the RV antifreeze from the rinse tank into the main solution tank and through the process. So we got a couple different ways we can get to the rinse page. We can hit this rinse button down here on the bottom on the quick shortcut buttons, or we can go to menu and then machine settings and scroll down to rinse system. Alright, so on the rinse system page, there's a couple different options in here on what you can rinse, kind of like I talked about down below. It's the same thing. So when we're doing winterize, we're going to do a main solution system rinse. We're just going to do one rinse cycle, and we're going to change our fluid usage from low to high here so that we use all 40 gallons out of our rinse tank. So now we're just going to hit the start button, and it's going to show you on this screen over here what procedure it's on. So right now it's pulling the RV antifreeze into the pump from the rinse tank to the main tank, and then it'll step through this process. You can watch your screen down here below and see what our solution pump pressure and our boom pressure is. And then as it gets through each step, it'll check it off. It may take a little bit, and we can come back and show you once it's complete. Right now it's rinsing the agitation system, as you can see on the screen. At any time you can hit this toggle button and toggle to the next step, but since we're running through the automatic procedure, we want to go ahead and let it finish. And then once it gets down to this next step, we have to actually spray the water out of the boom manually. It's not going to spray it on its own. We'll have to do that. At any time, if for some reason you have a leak on the machine, you can see something leaking on the boom, you can always hit your abort button to cancel the rinse procedure. Alright, Alright, so now that we got our RV antifreeze in the main tank, we want to let a little bit come out this front fill. So we'll just flip our switch to the middle position to open our sump valve, and then we'll open the valve just till some antifreeze comes out. And now that we've got antifreeze come out here, we'll leave that in the open position in the middle, and then we'll open our air valve to push that antifreeze in that hose back up to the main tank. Once we let that build air pressure in there and push it back to the main tank, then we can shut this switch back to the off position. And then shut the air switch back off. And then we really should be able to open this and not have much here. Just a little bit of air. Now I'll go show you how to run the adductor while we got antifreeze in our main tank. So during that automatic rinse procedure, there was an adductor procedure, but it's so quick on that step that a lot of times I like to just wait till we get our RV in the main tank, and then we can perform the procedure and have a little bit more time. So to do that procedure, we need a gallon jug, because we need to make sure we rinse out our jug rinse nozzle here too. A lot of guys will miss that step and it'll freeze this nozzle. So what we want to do is we want to turn our adductor button on, this one right here. And then we can open up our water flow. We'll get some RV antifreeze running in the tank. And then we'll want to push down on that nozzle to make sure we're getting antifreeze up in our jug. And then we'll shut this off, and then we'll suck all of this RV back into the tank. And we'll shut our adductor switch back off. Alright, so now we're ready to spray out the boom. Now that we got everything else done on the machine, all the RVs in the solution tank, now we're going to spray out each boom section. So I talked earlier about this page where I can do one section at a time. I'm going to give it some throttle here a little bit, and then I'm going to turn my solution pump on and make sure I got spray pressure. We can see it down here on our boom pressure. I'm going to go ahead and disable all of my sections for now, and then I'm going to look out this right side window. I'm going to turn the R4 section on, which would be the very outside section, and then I'm going to hit my master spray switch. But one other thing I want to tell you is you want to make sure your section control button is off. If that section control button is on, it's only going to spray for just a short period and shut off. So we'll have that shut off. We'll hit our master spray. And earlier I talked about having a fence row nozzle. We do have a right side fence row nozzle, so we'll want to run our fence row nozzle also over here on the keypad. We'll want to make sure that's turned on while we fire that outside section. So as you can see now, we're spraying water out that right side boom. Well, hopefully it's RV antifreeze, but a lot of times I like to set it down closer to the ground. You can see it from the cab, and when it starts to turn white and foamy, it's actually getting RV antifreeze out there. So then I'll shut that section off, and then I'll move to the next one. So now that we got our far outside right section, R4 section sprayed out, we're going to switch over to the R3 section, and we're going to spray out that section until we can see a little bit of white foam on the ground. And then as I can see that, or sometimes it helps to have another guy out there watching the ground as you're doing the video, so he can tell you when you're good to go to the next section over. I can see it turning white there now, so I'm going to turn that one off and turn the next one on. And then we'll just do that same procedure all the way across the back of the boom, just kind of watching each one as we go. And then after we get done, we'll kind of look at the ground across the whole back of the boom and make sure we got it all good. We always want to make sure we're keeping an eye on our solution pressure in case we didn't have quite enough product to spray out the whole boom. We would have to add a little more antifreeze. when I get clear across the back of the boom and I still got good spray pressure, a lot of times I like to turn them all back on and then just spray out the whole boom. But I want to make sure I hit that left-hand fence row while I got that left-hand side turned on too, to make sure we get that RV antifreeze out that left side fence row nozzle. I like to come out and just take a quick look at the ground and make sure it looks pink all the way across the back of the boom. A lot of times you can take your finger and just kind of hold it up to a nozzle and let it drip off and make sure it looks pink. And then at that point you got it pretty well winterized. So one thing we want to remember after we're all done is we want to make sure and turn all these valve handles from one side to the other, so because there could be just a little bit of water trapped inside the ball of these ball valves. So I just like to cycle them all the way back and forth so that it gets around that ball. That way none gets trapped in there. And then when we're done, we can either drain what good product we have left to use on our next machine if there's any left, or just put it in a barrel.